Crowhill here. Today we review a dopplebock and discuss conspiracy theories. Well, hey, good to see you this evening, Pigweed. How you doing?
All right, good evening. How about some beer and conversation?
Well, that's what I live for. So, what are we drinking?
We're drinking. Somebody made a doppelbock.
And snuck it into the bar.
Snuck it into the bar. This is a homebrewed doppelbock.
Okay, fantastic. So I love that style.
Very good. What's on your mind?
Well, recently we've had these horrible hurricanes.
Yes.
And just a little bit ago, I heard this news story about how scientists have figured out how to use lasers to cause rain.
There is some kind. I mean, I saw Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't consider himself to be a whack job.
No.
Or a right-wing nut job.
Yeah.
Saying something very similar. This was like 20 years ago.
Yeah. So here's the big question. Are the Democrats causing a lot of rain in states, in toss-up states, to make sure that Republicans don't vote in the election?
Well, I was a little sympathetic to the first part of this theory, but I think you've gone a little too far.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
All right, well, let's try this beer.
So here's what you have to do, though. So here, I brought Major Crowhill Doppelbock, Major Abigator Doppelbock. But first you have to try this commercial Doppelbock to kind of level set on...
Well, I tell you what, they don't resemble one another.
They don't resemble one another whatsoever, no. Because the Salvator, this is Paulaner Salvator, which is, as a bartender told me one time, so good they named it after Jesus. It's like, right, it's like the same recipe for 500 years or something, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so now take a gander at Major Abigator.
So, yeah. Boy, that's Salvador. It is a lovely beer. And this is a big, dark black beer.
Yes. I made mine very dark because I prefer it that way. So, very different, I think.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Well, I think the Salvator is obviously lighter in color, but it's also not as strongly malty.
No. It isn't, and it is... And what are these? What's the strength on these puppies here in general? In general, and in specific.
Yeah, like 7 to 8 is.
Okay.
I think what we're dealing with here.
Did you do enough readings on your own to determine? But what was that? But what was the recipe designed for?
8%.
Okay.
Yeah. So
it's malty enough that you don't really taste the heat anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems like a delicious heavy beer that you could substitute a meal for.
I like it. It's tasty.
I do too.
But I didn't get as much carbonation because I took this off of a tap at home. Yeah. Not as much carbonation as I'd like, but I like it. But it really doesn't taste like a classic doppelbock.
No, I think no. It's just a good strong. Let me see. What would I say if I didn't know the style? It would be. Yeah, I wouldn't just say doppelbock. I don't know, an imperial stout or something like that.
Yeah, something along those lines. Okay, so conspiracy theories.
So let me tell you how I got.
What does that mean?
Well, this is. I was going to do a short show just on these three things here, but then I just let's just include every conspiracy theory in the world. I thought to myself, there are three things that are out there that personally I don't walk around believing are true. But they do fit mentally into the category of, if I found out that they were true, I would say, yeah, well, not surprised.
Okay.
And these were my three. This was the original show.
Yeah.
I said, January 6th was orchestrated by the FBI and permitted by Nancy Pelosi. The 2020 election was stolen by coordinated massive fraud. And the White House / Secret Service allowed the assassination attempt to take place, and the second one on President Trump.
Right, and so we're saying we don't believe those things,
no.
but if it turned out that those things were true, We wouldn't like.
I would be floored.
No, I wouldn't be amazed. I wouldn't be like, oh my, I've just changed my whole view of the world.
How could something like this possibly happen?
Because, I mean, for example, let's just take the idea that somebody cheated in an election. You know, when you're dealing with trying to control who is the most powerful person in the world.
You don't think there's some motivation somewhere?
Exactly. How naive do you have to be to think that nobody would ever possibly cheat on something like that? I mean, come on. Of course people would.
Right. The most consequential event in the last 4 years. Nobody will. I mean, why would anybody bother?
Nobody would ever cheat. I mean,
there's no history of anything like that.
I mean, people
ever
cheat
happening.
over the stupidest things.
Yes.
And you're going to try to say that nobody would ever try to cheat about that? I mean, that's just such a ridiculously naive thing.
I know it.
Yeah.
So I thought we would pursue a broader range of conspiracies and give them some sort of a rating system.
Okay.
And I'm thinking of it something like this, like a. Hold on. What do we say? The five is the
no
way.
Is the no way, like the flat Earth.
Right.
5 is the flat. No, that's just
right. So
stupid.
a 1 would be, I don't know. I kind of believe that one.
Yeah, that one's
right.
Okay.
A two would be, there's truth in it, but I think they've taken it too far.
Yeah.
The 3 would be, I think, with the thing that I just said. Yeah, well, I'm not surprised, but I don't actually.
I don't believe it, but it could possibly be true.
Yeah, I doubt that one, but it's possible. I'd be very surprised.
Right.
And then their number 5 is like no way.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
Right.
So how do you do you have any ones through 5s that?
Well, sure.
Chemtrails.
Okay, that's a good one. So the idea here is that when you look up in the sky and a plane's flying by and you see that white trail behind the plane, that's not just condensation.
Right.
Like what it really is. It's actually they're intentionally. It's like a crop duster. They're intentionally spraying chemicals that are going to filter down.
To do what? I mean, did the chemtrail people specifically say what were just general poisoning, or
no? I think that they say, I'm not
making
positive.
The frogs gay.
Yeah, I'm not positive, but I think what they say is it's kind of like the PAX in the movie Serenity, that it's supposed to be something that makes us less violent, more compliant, less.
Not doing a very good job.
No, it's not doing a very good job.
All right, I'm calling that's a 5er.
Well, I'm not saying there's a 5er because there are situations where the government has done things to the population as a whole that are supposed to be towards some particular goal. I mean, a silly example is fluoridating water. Another example.
No, but I'm saying the chemtrails that you see on a plane.
Yeah.
On the ground. You're not going to give me a 5 on that one?
No, I don't believe for a second that it's some conspiracy.
All right, that's fine.
But if it turned out to be true, I wouldn't be.
Sorry, 4.5.
I'm going to give it a 4.5. I'm going to give it a 4.5 because the government does do things to try to influence the whole population without them knowing it from time to time. So,
but cloud seeding.
Yeah.
I saw this horrible rainstorm in Dubai.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, well, they were trying to get some rain.
There are ways to do that. So, I mean, in the beginning of the show, I was joking about using lasers to cause hurricanes to be more violent in certain areas. And it might be possible that maybe somebody could do that. I don't think for a minute that anybody's doing that.
No.
But it is there. We are getting better and better at controlling things like that. And we can, so you can't shoot lasers into a blue sky and make rain. That's impossible. But you can apparently shoot lasers into a sky that has some clouds in it and cause it to rain. So there are certain things that can be done to control the weather. Now, the stupid conspiracy theories we're hearing on X about, they intentionally made this hurricane or whatever. No, that
to go after Trump voters.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that didn't happen.
And then FEMA botched the job. No, that's just FEMA botching the job.
Yes. So this one is creating hurricanes to influence the election. I think it's a 5. However, the problem is you have this guilt by association where you say, oh, it's a conspiracy theory that anybody was trying to influence the weather to do blah, 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 blah. And then you say, okay, yeah, I agree with you that. However, it is true that people can influence the weather. Oh, now you're a conspiracy. You know what I mean? It's like,
yes, there's way too much all or nothing fallacy.
Exactly. There's too much all or nothing. And just because you say it is possible to influence the weather in certain cases doesn't mean you're buying into this insane conspiracy theory.
Yes, and by saying, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist, you just think it's a hoax, is not a shutdown argument.
Right.
The way that the way that you think it is.
Because people want it to be.
Right, because you've created this binary thing. So if you don't agree that it's complete nonsense, that you must be at the farthest end of that.
Right.
Extreme. All right. What else you got?
Okay, so you gave us this interesting chart with this starting at things that actually happened up to you're a nut.
Detached from reality.
Detached from reality. So things that actually happened are things like Watergate, the FBI spied on Martin Luther King, the Tuskegee experiment, and there are a lot of examples of things that were conspiracy. I mean, the Tuskegee syphilis study, MK Ultra, the idea that the Gulf of Tonkin, that big tobacco manipulated
data
science, so there are a lot of things that are conspiracy theories, but they actually did happen. It's not like every conspiracy theory is crazy, because sometimes people do conspiracies. And recently I've been listening to information about the food supply, and some people will argue, and as far as I'm concerned, the jury's still out on this. I don't know what to think. Some people will say that the same people who were working for the tobacco companies to try to convince us that tobacco was healthy,
right,
got hired by the food industry to try to convince us that ho-hos and Twinkies and all that kind of stuff are okay. So there is also a conspiracy theory that's going around right now about, like, the food that we're eating is contributing to diabetes and depression and ADHD and all that kind of stuff.
Kennedy is big time.
Kennedy, exactly. So that one, some people think that's a conspiracy theory, and some people think that's true, and I don't know where to fall on that one.
I'm putting that in the 2s and 3s.
Exactly. Yeah.
Epstein didn't kill himself.
Right. So, I mean, this one. Let's imagine just for a moment that there are some top 0.01% people. They're rich, they're powerful, they control so much.
Like the Clintons and the royal family of England.
those kind of people, Bill Gates, those kind of people. These are like the absolute cream of the crop. Now, let's say that they decided to do some things that were
this was a guy who had some serious dirt on those people.
Yeah.
Would they have the juice? Would they have the connections, the muscle, the intention, and the motivation to eliminate such a person?
Of course they would. I mean, I think it's just absurdly naive to think anything other than that. Yeah. Obviously, they can pay people off. Obviously, they can say, we're going to talk to the police commissioner. We know him. He's on our side. Now, people will say...
And then the camera stopped working in his cell, and the guy who was supposed to be keeping an eye on him fell asleep, and it happened to put him in the jail with a known murderer.
Right. So there are... Now,
I'm not saying it happened. I'm just saying.
One of the things that people will say to criticize a conspiracy theory like that is they'll say, well, there's always somebody who will come out and spill the beans, right? Yeah. Okay. See and that's true to a certain extent.
I mean, it's legit. It's probably the best argument for anti-conspiratorial stuff. Is, you know what? People just can't keep their damn mouths shut.
Right, and I think that's a legit perspective on it. However, just because somebody is going to come out and say something doesn't mean that what they say is going to be accepted. Let's say you have two people come out and say, yes, I know that Hillary Clinton killed Vince Foster. Well, you can find plenty of people who will say that, but nobody believes them because the organs of power will say, and I'm not saying that Hillary Clinton killed Vince Foster, but the media, the organs of power will dismiss them and say that's a conspiracy theory, shut up. So one part of a conspiracy theory is having the power to suppress people who come out and try to expose you. Yeah. So this argument that conspiracy theories are no good because it's impossible to get all these people to tell the same lie. No. You don't need that. You don't need everybody to stick with the lie. What you need is the power to marginalize and suppress their voices and call them lunatics.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been, the story has been remarkably incurious by the media, and but anyway, we have many more to get to.
Yeah.
COVID was orchestrated to affect the election / defeat Donald Trump.
Wow. So I'm not sure I understand this one. So in other words, somebody engineered COVID
for the purposes of the lockdown.
For the purposes of the lockdown to make Trump less likely to become president? So
that diminished Joe could just sit in his basement and say, "Vote for me. I'm not Donald Trump."
Wow.
He can't get out. Nobody can do rallies and speeches and talks and interviews. He's just got to stay at home.
Okay, so I would put that one pretty high up on the scale. Now, if you were to ask the more generic question, was COVID engineered?
Yeah.
I would put that one a little bit lower on the scale because it is true that various organizations.
I mean, the building was called The Study of Coronaviruses, where we manipulate coronaviruses to see what happens.
Exactly.
So, I mean, there is coronavirus engineering going on in a building designed to engineer coronaviruses.
The whole gain of function thing, those things happen.
That's exactly what was going on. Now, was it intentionally released?
Exactly. So that's where it gets. So if you're going to say, did somebody engineer COVID? I would say, well, I don't know, probably not, but maybe. But if you're going to say they did it for the specific purpose of getting rid of Trump, that's getting a little far-fetched.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, the WEF, with the help of the UN, the WHO, etc., want a one-world government that controls the currency. By currency means all digital currency, how people live, what they eat, etc.
Yes.
That's a one?
1.5. I mean, that one, of course they want that. Now, whether they have the power to do it.
What is it? Who is it? Klaus von Bülow?
Yeah. They say that kind of stuff. I mean, you watch clips of them saying precisely those kinds of things. Yeah. So,
we need less people. We need them to stop eating meat. We need them. We need to have total transparency in everything everybody buys.
You won't own anything, and
you won't own anything, and you love it.
So,
that's not really conspiracy.
Are there people who want that?
That's just words coming out of their mouths.
Absolutely. I mean, you can just take their words and say this is clearly what they want, what they say. Now, whether they're able to do it, that's another question. All kinds of other parts about it. But do they want to do that? Of course they do. They say they want to do
it. So, if you're familiar with the whole Nero playing the violin while Rome burns, right? Yeah. It was this accidental fire.
I'm not sure there were violins back then, by the way.
The lyre.
The lyre. Okay.
Right. Happened to burn down half of Rome, and then he expanded this massive estate of his own.
Yeah.
Maui.
Right, yes.
Was Maui a controlled burn by Oprah Winfrey, and
so they could buy property.
So they could buy property cheaply and expand their Maui empires.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say so. But however, so here's the problem: is if you take there's sort of an extreme version of a conspiracy theory and a less extreme version. The extreme version was somebody set the fire intentionally to wipe out this property so that they could swoop in and buy.
Swoop in and buy, your burnt piece of dirt.
Yeah.
for nothing.
Right. So that's the extreme version of but the less extreme version of the conspiracy theory is, oh my gosh, there was this horrible calamity, but that presents an opportunity where we can go in and buy this land for cheap and do something with it. So,
but they didn't let people escape.
Yeah.
They won't let people fix it. They completely they wouldn't let people go back to their own houses.
Yeah.
They wouldn't even let you look at it. They
Yeah.
put fences up with black paper around it, and there was no water. There was no water in the.
The idea that powerful, rich people come in and pressure policies towards their own interest. I mean, obviously that's true.
Yes, because
it's been happening throughout the entire history of the world.
Yes, the nature of politicians is that they're mostly garbage.
Yes, and they do things
for their own interest,
and for the interests of their sponsors and the people who are funding them. So that absolutely happens. I saw this one, which the Titanic never sank. What was that about?
Is that something that goes on?
That's on reality denial.
So that is at the far end of our QAnons.
Well, this one have up there? This one is in the category of unequivocally false, but mostly harmless. Which hold
on, where is that? Oh, that's level 3.
Elvis Lives, for example.
Okay, yes, mostly harmless.
Yeah,
Steve, I never heard that the Stevie Wonder is in blind.
Stevie Wonder is in blind. Greta Thunberg is a time traveler. Prince Charles is a vampire. Like these things, they're stupid.
They're right, but this is well articulated here in mostly harmless.
I think so. Yeah, it is pretty
all right.
Much
Danger to yourself and others. What do you have up here? Well, hold on. How about this one? Ivermectin cures COVID. This thing is, so look at this. This conspiracy chart is from 2021,
right?
Which is important to know.
Yes.
He already effed that one up. He put that one in the wrong category. Let's see what else he's just screwed up.
Essential oils cure all illnesses. Now this is one of these extreme things. Do essential oils cure all illnesses? I don't think anybody even believes that. That's like a that's just taking it way too far. Now the question is, do essential oils do anything? I don't know. Maybe they help a little bit sometimes. I don't know.
I mean, what do you call placebos are effective, to a certain degree, right?
So exactly. So essential oils probably help a little bit sometimes.
Or help certain types of people if you're already the mindset that this is going to be super helpful.
That's right. I didn't know this one. Biden is a robot.
I never even
heard that one. I guess we don't wade around in conspiracy pool enough, because a lot of these I don't. Ancient giant. Oh, I do know about this one. Okay, so here's this idea.
Hold on, where is that one? Is that
this one's
level
up
4
under in number 4 in this chart.
Ancient giant trees.
Ancient giant trees. Okay, so I've seen some of these videos where people look at geological structures out in the Midwest that look kind of like the stump of a tree. Okay, but they're like a mile across.
Okay.
Right. So people say that used to be a tree.
And so this is like the petrified roots.
Yeah, this is the petrified roots of a tree. And that's actually a tree. And of course it's not a tree. I mean, anybody could go and chip away at the rock and find it's a rock, for heaven's sakes.
And it would be 9 miles high?
Exactly. So there are things like that. There's also things about mud covering up these old ancient civilizations, but okay. All right. What else you got in here? Now here's another one that bugs me, that this guy, whoever made this chart, put it under detached from reality. And that is what he calls the Great Replacement.
What are you talking about?
I mean, why is that a conspiracy?
I mean, there are 3 of them up here that you could formulate into a kooky.
Yeah.
Like someone is in charge of orchestrating. I got 3 of 3. That one, the deep state, and the cultural Marxism.
Right.
Or do you mean that there's a puppet master pulling the strings in charge of all of these things? Okay, yeah, that's just kooky. They're not meeting underneath of the White House, the real shadow government.
Yeah.
That's not what's going on. But is the deep state and cultural Marxism and
Great replacement.
Is it going on?
How, maybe
what are you talking about?
Maybe in 2021 you could have considered the possibility that no, we're not. But today, are you kidding? Look at what's happening in Europe.
Yeah.
In terms of all the people who are being brought into, clearly there is some sort of an agenda somewhere.
Anybody doing any statistics at all is projecting numbers out. They're going, yes.
Look at the statistics.
At this rate, white Britons will be a minority in their own country at X date. Yeah. I mean, this is just basic numbers. What do you mean?
Look at the United States. Like, what was the percentage of various races in the United States in 1950 versus what it is today? The numbers are dramatic. So
I mean, what he's talking about, unless he means, is there an organized conspiracy to do this? Well, actually, I don't know.
Yes, there is.
Actually, I'm okay with that too.
Yes, exactly.
Totally, there is.
Because, Ted Kennedy was one of the big advocates of changing the immigration policy so that, because
before the 1960s,
the immigration policy used to be we would bring in people who were helpful to our country and who would assimilate with our culture.
Yes, Western Europeans.
Yes, and then Ted Kennedy was one of the big leaders of saying, no, we need to have a different policy of bringing in people who are radically different from us. Yeah. And that has been the way things have been going for a long time.
And so, and like I said, the deep state, but again, do you mean people organized, meeting in secret, running the real government? Or do you mean that there are entrenched progressive bureaucrats who are not elected?
Yeah.
And they are pursuing their own agendas independent of who is in the White House, meaning any conservatives that come into the White House, to pursue their own agenda. Yeah. Precisely.
Every organization, after a while, comes to the point where it acts only to preserve its own existence.
Yes. What's the cool French
term?
The raison d'être, or the reason for existing.
Yes, but there's some good phrase that I can't remember. It's like every organization exists for the preservation of itself.
Yes,
something along those lines. So I would like to back up for just a second and talk about what is a conspiracy theory and why are people inclined to believe them. So, like, there are some characteristics of a conspiracy theory.
All right.
One would be that it's some sort of control by a hidden or secret group, right?
True.
Another would be that there's you're simplifying a complex issue. You're taking some complex thing and you're trying to reduce it down to a relatively simple explanation. Often, conspiracy theories are unfalsifiable, right? You can't. There's no way that you can prove that the conspiracy theory is false. And there's also usually some sort of idea of a hidden danger, right? I think there's other characteristics you could assign to conspiracy theories, but why would people adopt them? And one of them might be kind of like bad pattern recognition. Like you're seeing a pattern where other people see coincidences.
Yeah.
You're seeing connections. You're seeing intention where there really isn't intention.
Or how about about just untrustworthiness? Right? Just you have a natural inclination not to believe.
Yes, not to
people.
trust.
So that would lead you down. Yes, they tell you that. Right. Every reaction to. Oh yeah, that's what they want you to believe.
Yes.
So there's a personality trait that associated.
And there's an attitude. Like, for example, I remember a discussion a long time ago about why is the soap dish in the shower placed in such a position that the water from the shower is going to wear away the soap.
What is that? A design from the soap manufacturing
Exactly.
union?
The soap manufacturer union had a conspiracy with the people who built
get you to buy more,
to
wear your soap down.
To wear your soap down. I mean, there's just a
wait a minute.
Kind of an underlying. This is an underlying attitude, a suspicious attitude.
Sounds exhausting.
It does. It does. But or things like, oh, you know that they have engines that can do 200 miles per gallon of gasoline, but the car companies have bought those. I mean, there's that kind of an attitude of just thinking, seeing not just connections, but seeing evil intent all over the place. And
it's a personality trait.
It is, yeah.
But what else do you have to?
Well, I think there's also, to some extent, a conspiracy theory is a reaction to being lied to. I think that's why we're seeing conspiracy theories on the rise right now.
Yeah,
is because there's been so much lying by organs of the media, the government, different things that people, groups
White House
people,
press secretaries.
yes, people that we normally thought we should be able to trust.
Yes.
And they've just been straightforwardly, flat out lying to us.
Yes. You when you replace Walter Cronkite with Rachel Maddow.
Yeah.
You don't have the same attitude towards news anymore.
Yes. So that's a problem. Is that you want to say, well, that idea is crazy. How do you know? Nobody really knows. It's just what they're really saying is that's outside of the mainstream of what I've been told. But then if you realize what you've been told is a pack of lies, then that creates an environment where people are much more likely to believe in conspiracy theories. So anyway, I didn't want to spend too much time on that. I think that when people complain about conspiracy theories, they don't give enough credence to the fact that the reason we have conspiracy theories is because we've been lied to like crazy.
I've always had what I consider to be a healthy skepticism of government.
Yeah.
In the way that the founding fathers intended it, right? They built this country's system on the idea that government is not to be trusted.
Right.
Right. So running around with crazy conspiracy theories is not what they meant. But yes, in fact, always being suspicious of government is what they had in mind.
Yes.
Right. It's the Bill of Rights is not a list of rights that the government allows you to have.
Yeah.
It's what? It's a list of it's a list of things that the government's not allowed to do.
Well, so the basic reason why we have a Bill of Rights is when people put together the original Constitution, they said, look, under the Articles of Confederation, there was the central government was not strong enough, and they wanted to make a stronger central government. And people looked at it and
that's
said,
the whole federalism and
exactly.
John Adams and
I mean, they looked at
Thomas
the Constitution and they said, wait a minute, we're afraid that you're building a system that's going to do these bad things. And we want some guarantees that you're not going to do certain things. So the whole Bill of Rights was supposed to say the government's not going to restrict religion. The government's not going to restrict freedom of the press. The government's not going to...
There's a list of things that the government is not allowed to do.
Yes.
Not a list of things that the government is allowing us to do.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
The whole point of the Bill of Rights was to restrict the power of the government.
Yeah. I don't assume the worst in government officials. I just recognize that they're human beings. And some of them are not very smart. And some of them are clinging to dumb ideas from their sophomore year of college. But I'm partial to Kurt Vonnegut's warm, this is a great term, warm pessimism.
Okay.
He says, people try to do good, they just suck at it.
Well,
it's what's attributed to him. Like it's not really a positive view, but it's like,
I like that, but I would also add this, that once you become part of some sort of an institution, like any individual government worker isn't some evil monster who's trying to do bad things, but they get sucked into the zeitgeist of that organization. And that organization...
And back to your self-preservation.
Yeah. So they're trying to fit in. They're trying to get along, get with the program. And there becomes this kind of spirit of the agency or whatever, the deep state, that's pushing in a certain direction. So even though I'm not trying to say every individual worker is a bad person, that doesn't mean they're not participating in something that on balance is a bad thing.
Or that in their pursuance of their agenda, they're not intending harm.
Yeah, exactly. They think that they're doing well.
Yes,
they believe they're doing well,
and they came to do good, and they did very well indeed. So,
right, there is that interesting tension between doing good and doing well, right? Like, doing good means you're doing morally good. Doing well means you're making money doing it.
Exactly. Here. So, I guess what I'm getting at is, that Kurt Vonnegut is probably more generous than I am now. I'm starting to doubt the intentions of people, which is giving myself more, opening the window for conspiracy theory, and that the underlying intentions of our betters, our politicians, and our people are right. They're not just bumbling, fumbling, well-intending people. They're rotten people.
Well, okay. So this brings up another thing, which is kind of the hidden motivation question. And this gets back, in one sense, it gets back to the whole question of dog whistles, which the left likes to say.
Oh gosh.
That when you say this, what you really mean is this other thing.
And you can't argue your way out of that, because then that's just the Kafka trap, where by arguing your way out, confirming.
Yes.
Yeah.
By arguing against it, you're just confirming that you're on the wrong side. But there is something to this problem, which is that there are hidden motivations that people won't tell us about. Like, for example, why is it that since Ronald Reagan or before, the public has wanted the government to get a hand on immigration? Get a handle on immigration.
Yeah. It's top 3 priority for the last 40 years
or more. Yes, and for some reason, both the Democrats and the Republicans have refused to do anything about it for all that time. So you have to realize there's some other motivation going on here that they won't tell us.
Yes.
That they won't.
And you feel like your government is not actually acting in the interest of their constituents.
Yes,
that's not crazy talk.
That's not crazy talk. So that puts you in a mindset of like there's something deeper here. There's something else they're not telling us. There's some other motivation. What is it?
And it creates this building suspicion that then, like I was saying,
and if it's this thin, why isn't it that thing?
Then it starts to spill over into other areas. It's because of your untrustworthiness on this area that I'm now starting to doubt you here, and here.
Exactly.
And you have this to blame. All right, let's wrap this up here. How about this? Michelle Obama is actually a man.
I don't think so.
All right, that's a 5. Yeah. Adrenochrome.
That's a 5.
Well, you can tortured children. You can extract the.
Yeah. So the idea behind adrenochrome is that you torture children and they produce some chemical that you can then extract from the children, and
during their torture.
Yeah, and you can then inject that into other people that makes them young again.
Yes, like
Hillary Clinton. Here's the reason that I don't believe that.
Why?
Hillary Clinton looks like an old hag.
It's not working.
It's not working.
You've tortured these poor kids for.
I mean, I don't. There's many other reasons why I don't believe it, but that's. I mean, the most obvious reason not to believe it is it's not working.
Okay, flat Earth.
Yeah, that's
5.
Ridiculous.
Moon landing hoax.
5. Yes.
Okay, the government has alien bodies and alien spacecraft in storage.
4.9.
Okay. All right. Gosh, we could do this all day.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things on this list.
I don't know. I don't know. What do you say? One man's conspiracy theory is another man's truth. Is another man's actually real lived experience.
I think the reason for me to wrap this up, the reason that we have so many conspiracy theories is because the people in positions of power are lying bastards.
Yes, you have put us in this position.
Yes,
if you were more believable.
Yes,
we wouldn't be gullible for all
there's
kinds
always going to be some nuts who believe stupid things, but the extent of the nuttery is because you're a bunch of lying bastards.
Yes, right, and don't blame it on Twitter.
That's right. Yeah. Cheers. Thanks so much for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Remember to visit us at pigweedandcrowhill.com or send us an email at pigweedshow@gmail.com.